Mr. President,
The Senator from Colorado.
I ask that the quorum call be lifted.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I would like to take a moment to applaud the great work that Chairman Murkowski and Ranking Member Cantwell are doing this week on the energy bill to get this bill to the floor, the Energy Policy Modernization Act of 2016. They've been leaders and have shown their commitment to developing and advancing what is truly a bipartisan bill. The legislation is a result of nearly a year's worth of work on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, with 4 legislative hearings leading up to a July markup. There have been many hours put into this base text, and we had a strong bipartisan vote to report the bill out of committee, 18-4. It's also nice to see that members over the past several days, and last week as well, having the opportunity to amend the bill on the floor, to make it even stronger through an open amendment process throughout this past week. The Energy Policy Modernization Act will lead to more energy efficiency, more energy generation, and more jobs in the energy sector. Promoting energy efficiency and clean alternative power sources is something that's been a focus of my service. And I'm pleased that I've had a chance with my role on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee to continue shaping federal energy policy in the United States Senate. We have before us this week an opportunity to really advance our national energy policy. And if you think about what a national energy policy means for this country, energy being the fundamental cornerstone of our economy, our security, it means more jobs, it means more growth, and perhaps even one of the most potent foreign policy tools this nation has to offer our allies. So I'd like to take a little bit of time to highlight several provisions of the bill that I helped champion and sponsor to get included into the base of the text. Section 1006 would encourage the use of something called energy savings performance contracts and utility energy savings contracts in federal buildings. It's a long name for something that probably doesn't fit very well on a bumper sticker. But what energy savings performance contracts do and utility energy savings contracts do, something very simple. They're tools that will allow innovative public-private partnerships to occur that allow private companies to use private dollars to make energy-efficient upgrades to federal buildings. The private companies are then reimbursed for upgrades once the federal building's energy costs are lowered. And so in essence, what we're doing is we're taking private sector ingenuity and know-how, private sector investments, putting it into federal buildings to lower the utility costs to make sure that we're doing a better job of heating or cooling or turning the lights on in our building, all through private sector know-how, no cost to the taxpayer, resulting in taxpayer savings, and of course, thousands of private sector jobs. Last night, we had an amendment passed by voice vote, which requires federal agencies to implement energy savings projects at federal facilities. You know, for the past several years, we've been carrying out mandatory federal audits, federal energy audits, that outline energy savings projects for federal facilities that are aimed at reducing energy consumption and saving tax dollars. But federal agencies were not required to implement these changes. So here we are, where we would actually spend federal dollars to find out how we can save federal dollars, but yet we would put that report on a shelf where it could gather dust, and we actually didn't implement the taxpayer savings that the reports suggested. And we're not just talking about a little bit of savings. We're talking billions upon billions of dollars of savings that we could put upon the federal government simply by making the billions of square feet of office space this federal government has more energy efficient. All, again, by using private sector know-how, private sector ingenuity, with zero taxpayer dollars involved. This amendment that we added last night would make sure that those mandates, those studies, those requirements, or those findings of energy savings are actually put into place. Instead of just gathering dust on the shelf, we're going to make them a reality. Section 3002 of the bill would reauthorize a Department of Energy program for 10 additional years to provide funding to retrofit existing dams and river conduits with electricity generating technology. You know, it's estimated by the Department of Energy that there's up to 12 gigawatts of untapped hydropower development within the nation's existing dam infrastructure. 12 gigawatts already there, untapped. Infrastructure and right now we estimate that only about 3% of the nation's 80,000 existing dams are used to generate clean hydroelectric power. People are concerned about zero emissions. If people are concerned about carbon emissions, Hydropower is one of the greatest opportunities that we have. Hydroelectric generation to produce clean energy with a renewable resource, emission-free. We've heard from the Colorado Small Hydro Association that there are new Colorado hydroelectric projects benefiting from this program that were originally authorized in the Energy Policy Act of 2005. These projects include new small hydro projects near Ouray, Creed, Grand Lake, and Ridgway, Colorado. Another measure that I've been working on over the past several years is Section 2201, which expedites the approval of liquefied natural gas export applications. I carried this provision, this measure in the House, where we passed it with bipartisan support of the House, and now we're going to be able to pass it with bipartisan support out of the United States Senate. You think about the foreign policy potential that expediting liquefied natural gas has for this country and the world, it's truly significant. Because now we can send to our allies in Eastern Europe, around the globe, nations that are currently dependent on energy from tyrannical governments or governments that would use their energy contracts and pricing to try to gouge their neighbors or to manipulate markets for their own gain of an unscrupulous leader. It's a foreign policy tool that the United States can now provide to our allies with abundant, affordable American energy. And this bill will allow that liquefied natural gas permitting process to be expedited. Nations can't wait to get their hands on U.S. energy. The Department of Energy has said that they can comply with the terms of this bill. It's a no-brainer. I also sponsored language in Section 4101 of the bill to commission a study of the feasibility and the potential benefits that could be brought about by an energy water center of excellence within the Department of Energy's national laboratories. In Colorado, we're home to the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. We're also home to some of the most incredible waterways our nation has to offer. We're also home, of course, to the high plains, arid areas of the western slope and the eastern plains that need more attention when it comes to how we are going to develop our energy sources while also making sure that we are protecting our water and making sure that we are being good conservationists when it comes to our water. An Energy Water Center of Excellence would aid in efforts to establish a comprehensive approach for managing energy and water resources in the future. In Section 3017, I worked to clarify that oilseed crops are eligible to qualify for the same research provisions as biomass. Meeting future demand for energy and fuel will require a variety of sources, and science and research indicate that oilseed crops have the potential to play a significant role. The Central Great Plains Research Station in Akron, Colorado is researching right now oilseed productivity under varying water availability. Meeting our energy needs in an increasingly drought-ridden area will only become harder and harder. And without the necessary research, we may not have an appropriate response, but with continued innovation, we will have a great one. Oilseeds could hold the key to providing safe, clean energy that's water efficient, a key for the increasingly drought-ridden West. One of the things that we know we have to add to agriculture as farmers face historic, sometimes challenging and historic low in commodity prices is to make sure that we are finding new ways to bring new value to the crops that they can raise. Development of oilseeds, development of dryland oilseed technologies is an incredible way for us to bring value-added opportunities to rural America. Mr. President, these are only a few of the provisions that I've worked to advance in this bill, and I want to thank again Chairman Murkowski and so many of our colleagues for including these provisions, so important to states like Colorado and the presiding officers, state of Montana, what we have been able to do in this energy bill. And so we're spending this time on energy because it's so important to this country. Why is it important? Because it means jobs, it means the economic foundation. Abundant, affordable energy means the opportunity for a small business to open up. It means the ability of our neighbors to be able to afford to cool or heat their home, to be able to turn on that light switch when they wake up in the morning or go home at night. And over the past year, though, we've looked back at the work that this Senate has done, and really the past year has been a very productive one in the United States Senate for the American people. We've really focused on four things in the Senate, four corners, something that I've called my Four Corners Plan, working on areas like education, passing a bipartisan education bill, areas like our economy, providing tax relief to small businesses, people around the country, passing a bipartisan transportation bill to make sure that we're getting goods to and from the market. We've worked on the environment by passing the Land and Water Conservation Fund. In fact, this bill will address the great program of the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which has benefited states in all 50 states across the country, projects in every single one. And today, this vote, the Energy Act that we are working on today, will address the fourth corner of my four-corner plan, and that's energy. Hundreds of thousands of jobs around Colorado and the country, directly or indirectly related to energy development and energy production. Whether that's clean energy, renewable energy, energy efficiency, traditional energy, transmission of that energy to and from consumers, from where it's produced in the sparsely populated areas of southeastern Colorado to the densely populated areas of Colorado's Front Range and beyond, we've been able to take this bill, and I hope that our colleagues will agree to support and pass this legislation so that it actually continues American leadership when it comes to energy policy. And so, Mr. President, I thank you for your leadership. I know in Montana, this energy bill is an important step forward because it represents an all of the above energy policy. And I want to thank the President for his leadership in Montana. And I also want to thank the Chairman of the committee, Senator Murkowski, for her leadership as well. Mr. President, I yield back my time.